Echoes of Empires, a tale of two neighbors. For centuries, Japan looked towards China with cultural reverence. Chinese philosophy, writing systems, art, and political structures heavily influenced Japan. Japan adapted and innovated, creating its own unique identity. The influence of Chinese civilization, particularly during the Tang dynasty, was immense. This dynamic of cultural exchange persisted for a long time. The 19th century arrived like a geopolitical earthquake. Western imperialism pressured both China and Japan to modernize. Japan rapidly industrialized and militarized through the Meiji Restoration. China, under the weakening Qing dynasty, struggled with internal problems and foreign exploitation. This period set the stage for a dramatic power shift within East Asia. Japan developed an expansionist ideology, seeing itself as the leader of Asia, the focus of its ambitions. China, perceived as weak and ripe for exploitation. The admiration that once flowed from Japan to China was replaced by a sense of superiority and contempt. The historical narrative was being rewritten from cultural deference to imperial aspiration. This transformation would have devastating consequences for China and the relationship between these two nations. It's a stark reminder that power dynamics between nations are never static. The seeds of future conflict were sown in this period of diverging fortunes and burgeoning Japanese ambition. The student was about to challenge the master in a very aggressive way. The turning point, the First Sino-Japanese War. The 1894 war was a brutal wake-up call for China. Japan's modernized military decisively defeated China's Qing forces. It was a profound psychological blow. The 1895 Treaty of Shimonoseki forced China to cede territories and pay a massive indemnity. This defeat marked the beginning of the century of humiliation for China. The war accelerated the decline of the Qing dynasty and fueled revolutionary movements. It emboldened Japan, confirming its military prowess. The war altered the balance of power in East Asia. It laid the groundwork for further Japanese expansion and wounded China's national pride. The memory of this defeat fueled anti-Japanese sentiment in China. It was the first major act in a drama of conflict. The old order in East Asia was gone. The Abyss, the Second Sino-Japanese War, and the Nanjing Massacre. The Second Sino-Japanese War, beginning in 1937, brought unimaginable suffering to China. The Nanjing Massacre in December 1937 symbolized Japanese wartime atrocities. Japanese troops committed mass murder and looting in Nanjing. The impact on Chinese national consciousness is profound. The war lasted 8 brutal years, claiming millions of lives. This period remains a living memory for many in China. The stories of suffering and resistance are woven into national identity. The echoes of this conflict resonate powerfully to this day. Chapter 4. The Unsettled Past. Apologies, Denials, and the Yasukuni Shrine. The end of the Second Sino-Japanese War did not mean the end of historical grievances. Many Chinese perceived Japan's apologies for wartime actions as insufficient. Historical revisionism and visits to the Yasukuni Shrine fuel these perceptions. The Yasukuni Shrine honors Japan's war dead, including Class A war criminals. Visits by Japanese politicians are seen as endorsing Japan's militarist past. For Japan, Yasukuni is a place to mourn all who died for the country. However, the enshrinement of war criminals makes it a fraught symbol. Each visit sparks outrage in China, leading to diplomatic protests. The issue is about more than just words. It's about whether the aggressor nation has truly acknowledged the pain it caused. For many Chinese, Japan's actions have fallen short. This lack of full accountability creates a barrier to reconciliation. Chapter 5. Lessons of the Past. Nationalism and Education in Modern China. Historical wounds are actively kept alive through education and state-controlled media. The Chinese education system places significant emphasis on patriotic education. Students learn about foreign invasions and injustices, with the Second Sino-Japanese War occupying a prominent place. Museums and memorials related to the war serve as powerful reminders of past suffering. State media frequently revisits wartime themes, reinforcing negative images of Japan. This focus on historical grievances helps legitimize the rule of the Communist Party. It fosters a sense of shared identity and purpose among the Chinese population. However, this emphasis on past victimhood can make reconciliation more difficult. Nationalist sentiments can be easily ignited, especially during diplomatic flare-ups. Remembering history is crucial, but the way it is remembered impacts present-day attitudes. It's a delicate balance between honoring the past and not letting it dictate the future. Understanding this dynamic is key to understanding Sino-Japanese relations. Current political and territorial disputes act as constant irritants, regularly bringing tensions between China and Japan to the fore. The most prominent dispute revolves around the Diaoyu Senkaku Islands in the East China Sea. Both countries claim sovereignty over these strategically located islands. The dispute is a major flashpoint, with patrol vessels from both countries frequently confronting each other. For the Chinese public, the dispute is framed as another example of Japanese encroachment. Nationalist protests have erupted in China over this issue. Beyond the islands, there are broader military tensions in the East China Sea. China's expanding navy challenges Japan's maritime presence and the US-led security architecture. Japan has been strengthening its defense capabilities and alliances in response. Japan's security alliance with the United States is another source of friction. These ongoing disputes ensure that the relationship remains fragile. They provide a constant stream of negative news headlines and talking points for nationalist elements. The troubled waters of the East China Sea reflect the troubled waters of the Sino-Japanese relationship. The generational divide in attitudes towards Japan offers a glimmer of potential for future change. Older generations who lived through the war years often harbor the deepest animosity. For them, the pain is woven into their family stories and lived experiences. Younger generations have grown up in a different China, experiencing rapid economic growth and globalization. Their primary interaction with Japan might be through anime, manga, and Japanese technology. This creates a more multifaceted view of Japan. Younger Chinese might distinguish between Japan's past actions and contemporary Japanese culture. They might be more willing to engage with Japanese people on a personal level. However, nationalist sentiments can still be strong among younger Chinese. The patriotic education they receive instills a sense of historical grievance. Social media can amplify outrage over perceived Japanese provocations. Understanding these generational nuances is key to understanding Sino-Japanese relations. The shadows of history are long, and national narratives are not easily overcome. Is it truly hatred that many Chinese people feel towards Japan, or is it something more complex? What we're often seeing is the profound and lasting impact of unresolved historical trauma. The term hatred can oversimplify the broader sentiment. What seems more pervasive is a deep sense of historical grievance and a profound mistrust. The Second Sino-Japanese War inflicted wounds so deep that they continue to shape perceptions. The historical narrative is always there, ready to be brought to the forefront by a political dispute. The key here is unresolved. If there were a widespread feeling that Japan had fully confronted its wartime past, the dynamic might be different. But the perception is that this hasn't happened to a sufficient degree. Therefore, the past remains an open wound. Rather than simple hatred, it's more accurate to speak of a historically conditioned distrust. Understanding this distinction moves the conversation towards a more nuanced appreciation of how the past shapes the present. It's about the enduring power of history to define relationships. So why do many Chinese people dislike Japan? Because history matters. Pain lasts. And when the past hasn't been acknowledged or reconciled, it shapes how people feel, decades or even centuries later. These aren't just abstract historical facts. They are lived experiences and powerful narratives. The weight of this history continues to cast a long shadow over the relationship between these two nations. Understanding this isn't about taking sides, but about recognizing the profound impact of unresolved historical trauma. If you found this video insightful, please hit that like button, share it, and subscribe for more deep dives into fascinating topics. Thanks for watching, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.